Okay, on the topic of bridges, I went ahead and cut out material today for the, I guess you'd call them the top and bottom rails of the bridges. You can see, the only problem was I shorted myself on material because these pieces here were cut out for the lower rails, which would be these, and I needed 4 of them. But I cut out enough pieces to do 8 of them. My bad. So that basically left me short on material to build the top rails, which would be these. Again, I needed 4 of these. And being that I didn't have any material, I ended up sourcing a piece from that old bridge that I showed in the last part. And not really that big of a deal. It was just sitting around doing nothing anyways. Doubt I would have used it again. So, yeah, I managed to get 2 pieces off of that, and not really too concerned about these having, paint on them and holes and such. That can all be filled in, sanded off, so on. But lesson learned though, make sure you got enough material to do your project and measure twice, cut once. So I'm going to start gluing the rails onto the bridges next, and unfortunately I only have 1 set of clamps. So it's going to be a case of glue something, clamp it, let it sit for 30 minutes, take the clamps off, repeat. And that being the case, I'm only going to do it this one time. The rest I'm going to do off camera because it would just take too long. So I'm going to be using this Carpenter's wood glue. Used this stuff in the past for projects, seems to work pretty well. But let's go ahead and put a small bead down this piece of wood. Make sure I got a good layer of glue on that. Just remember, the rules are you can never use too much. Also, a little advice to you, don't take advice from me. Alright, I have marks on this piece. I just got to line up with those. And I made this so that there should be a 1/4 inch from each end. It'll sit back, and that'll be explained later on why I did it that way when we get to the landscaping stage. So there's that piece glued on, clamped down. I'll leave that sit for 30 minutes, then I'll come back and put the one on the other side too. Alright, so it's been about a day, and I finished gluing the top and bottom rails onto the bridges. I had a bit of a incident with the back one. I had one of the rails on the top didn't go in place right, and I didn't realize it till the glue had set, so I ended up having to break it off and make a new one to glue back in place because I couldn't salvage the first one I did. But you can see how they're looking so far, and overall I'm quite impressed with those, especially considering they were just leftover material from another project. But they're still far from finished, still a bit of work to be done. I have checked to make sure that they do not interfere with the rail line running underneath. You can see there's plenty of space there between the bottom of the bridge and the top of those locomotives. But the next step is going to be to make some bridge piers, and I'm going to need 1 here and here, and then 2 on the ends as well. And going to get to work on making some of those now. Okay, so you're looking at yet more recycled material. I had this left over from a cabinet project I did late last year, and what's nice about this is there's hardly any cutting involved to get it to the sizes I need, because I got my measurements here, and my verticals need to be 3/4 by 3/4. I need 12 of them, and my horizontals need to be 1 by 3/4, and I need 8 of those. So these will make up the verticals, and they're already 3/4 by 3/4. This long piece will make the horizontals, and this is already 1 by 3/4 as well. And I actually went ahead and cut out a couple test pieces here, and you can see basically how this is going to go together. There will be 3 verticals, 1 horizontal, and then those will get mounted underneath the bridge. So I like the way that looks. I just need to go ahead and cut out all the pieces, so I'll get that taken care of and be back in a bit. So there we are, 12 verticals and 8 horizontals. Now to go ahead and start assembling these. I went ahead and just temporarily put things together just to get an idea of how the bridge is coming along. And I gotta say, I like the way those bridge supports look. They definitely turned out, and they're looking a lot nicer than I thought they would when I first started designing them. I think this bridge will look really nice once everything's put together and it's sitting on the display. And once that's done, be ready to start painting. That's all the bridge supports glued together, and turned out pretty nice, I think. And they'll look even better once you get a coat of paint on them. But if we go over here to the display table, went ahead and set a bridge up here so you can see how it's looking. And one thing I do notice is I think this bridge is actually sitting higher than it should. It definitely is sitting higher on this side, and I'm not sure. I gotta check and see. I may have to trim the supports down a little bit so the bridge sits flush with everything else, but overall it's not too bad. So I cut a little less than 1/4 of an inch off the bottom of these bridge supports, and I think that's done what I wanted it to. Might have been a little too much, but my plan is I can go in and shim these up a little bit when I'm doing landscaping around them. But you can see the bridge sits almost perfect on each end, and when you look underneath, there's still plenty of room for trucks and trains to get underneath it. So overall, I'm happy with that, and I think with the supports the way they need to be and the bridge is sitting almost perfect, I can go ahead and start putting in the supports here on the ends and then get back to work on landscaping. Right, end supports. As you can see, I went ahead and got them fitted in place. They're just in there temporarily. I've still got some more cutting and maybe some shimming to do to get them to where they need to be. But hopefully you can see that the roadway on the bridge is about the same level as the top of the foam, so things are about lined up where they should be. But I'm going to have to find something to fill this gap right here. Probably should have made the bridges a little bit longer, but, well, live and learn. The bottom supports are still the same. Nothing's changed with those, except I'm going to have to do some shimming underneath them. But that wasn't unexpected. I kind of had that in mind anyways. So overall, it's starting to take shape. And of course, I'll be doing the same thing with the second bridge here that I did with this first one. And when I was putting the end supports in, I did run into a couple issues. The first one being, and I'm sure you saw it, the foam here came apart when I was trying to cut it. So, yeah. Spray adhesive. My recommendation, don't use it. Stick to the actual glue. Another problem I had was over here, and if you remember, I used Knuckles' method of PVA glue and newspaper, and I will say this makes a very good strong surface for landscaping and everything, really hard shell and what have you, but it is hell to cut. So a little advice to you, if you do use this method, don't go back and try to correct something. As you can see, I really made a mess right here that I'm going to have to fix. So overall, pretty good method, and personally it's like, if you can't destroy it intentionally, I have a feeling you're not going to be able to destroy it accidentally either. So I'll give it the thumbs up. Final clip of the video. Just decided to throw a truck on here real quick, see how it's looking. It'll look a little better once everything's painted and landscaped and what have you. But hopefully you can see that's really starting to take shape. I don't know, personally, I'm quite happy with that.